And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Lawrence Bryant, who had a near-death experience due to a heart seizure, which we're going to learn about and more. Lawrence, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I really, genuinely, I appreciate this opportunity, sincerely.
It's our honor to have you, Lawrence. And if you don't mind, let's start on the day you had this tragic
Okay.
seizure and go from there.
I have a rare medical condition where, depending on what I drink as far as alcohol, caffeine, sodas, anything like that, my body only processes those forms of liquids as a poison. My body can't differentiate between the water and the alcohol, or the water and the caffeine, or the water and the sugars in a soda. And what happens is my body goes into a flush. And depending on what I've put through my body will depend on the level of the flush that my body goes through. So my body will end up flushing itself out 3 to 5 times faster. And anybody will know that the majority of people who die from dehydration actually have heart attacks. They have heart seizures. So that's literally what happened to me. I went out. It was just a regular, quiet Friday night. I caught up with a buddy of mine, John, who lived just down the street from my parents' place in New Zealand. And we went to just a local club at a place called the Auto Lodge. It's kind of a foo-foo joint. And had just had a couple of quiet drinks there, and then went and caught up with some other friends at another bar, hung out with them for a little bit. And trust me when I say this, it was no bender in any way, shape, or form. It was a pretty lightweight evening. Then went to another restaurant with those friends. It was actually a little cafe, and caught up with some friends there. And there was a couple of bottles of wine shared and some food, etc. And then we went back to John's place, hung out there for, a couple of hours, shooting the breeze, and then I just walked home. I mean, literally his house was 7, 8 houses from where I lived. Went to bed and woke up a few hours later, and I just felt like hell. And I didn't know if it could have been the alcohol, could have been the food. I don't know what it was, but I just went to the bathroom and just emptied out whatever was in my system. And when I went to stand up, I collapsed. And I'd never experienced that before in my life. I was a young man. I was only 24 years of age at the time. And it shocked me, in all honesty. I was just like on the floor. I picked myself up, not stood up. I just kind of like sat up. And I was wondering, like, what the heck's going on here? I've never experienced this before. Very bizarre experience to have. But I wasn't concerned. I wasn't worried or anything like that. And as I'm processing this stuff, my heart starts to race. And I was, okay, this is weird. I've never had this happen before either. And then all while I'm thinking about that, boom, my heart just locked up. And at that point, I was holding on to the sink, and I was just like, oh my God, like, what's going on here? And you start to try to take a breath of air, and then you're like a fish out of water. You're like, because you can't, your body doesn't need oxygen. When your heart's not pumping, your body's not pumping oxygen. So I was just like, what the heck's going on here? I wasn't panicking, wasn't really concerned in any way, shape, or form. It's just like, what's going on here? And while I'm focusing on those thoughts, my heart just goes, boom, boom. I was like, all right, okay, we're good. No worries sort of situation. And so I chilled out for a little bit. And in my infinite 24-year-old young male wisdom, I was like, maybe I was just trying to move too fast. So what I did was I was like, I'm going to crawl back to my bedroom. So I was on my knees and I just started to move. And the moment I just started to move, the same thing happened again. Heart started to race, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? This is not, this isn't right. I don't know what's going on. Now I'm starting to really think about it. Then my heart locked up again. Boom. This time I was just like, okay, we got a problem here. This isn't right. Now I started to worry. And as I started to really process this experience, like in a more serious manner, my heart started pumping again. I was like, okay, cool. All right. So what I just lay there for a little bit, okay, on the floor. I was halfway out of the toilet into the hallway of my parents' house, and I was relaxed for a little bit. Then I went to kind of like pick myself up again and tried to move back into the bedroom, and wham, this situation happened again. And as my heart started to race, I started to um, just kind of surrender. I was like, wow, maybe this is the end for me. Maybe this is you know, okay, God, if you want me, I suppose this is it. And as I was going through those thoughts, my heart locked up again. And I just remember going, all right, well, if it's my time, it's my time, God, and I just started to surrender and let go. And as I did that, I had these euphoric feelings that like my body started to heat up and my body started getting really, really hot. And then I started to have, these feelings of like love and peace just starting to show up. My heart had locked up again, and I laid down. I literally just put my head in my hands like that. I was like, all right, I'm yours, God. And to this day, it's incredible. I can hear that haunting, it's the most haunting sound out where you hear the last puff of air exit your lungs. You just hear that final, and right at that point, I just remember looking down, and I could still see my body. I was looking down past my legs and see my feet and my toes. And then I saw my body down on the floor of my parents' hallway. I just managed to move a little bit further out into the hallway. I can still see it clearly where I was lying. Um, and what happened was I was like, oh my God, I'm out of my body. I've I've died. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. Wow. And I was just and fixated on my body, just seeing my body lying on the floor. It was absolutely, it was, it was unreal. Every phase of this experience is just absolutely mind blowing. And then I lifted lifted my head up to start to pan around, and there was no roof on my parents' house. And the crazy thing about it is that when you become your soul's purest form of energy, everything takes on this very cartoonesque appearance, all this man-made stuff. And at my parents' house, the roof was off the house, and it was this very cartoonesque kind of three-dimensional, kind of like architectural view of my parents' house. And I started to take it all in. And I'll never forget looking over to my left and seeing my parents. I could see them lying in their bed, and I could see the energy shining out of them. And I just remember, and it was a jacked up thought, but having this thought flow through my body like, my parents have souls, right? And I was just like, check that out. And I remember looking over towards where my brother's bedroom was at. But as I panned over to where my brother's bedroom was at, I started to realize that outside of the house was just pure inky black darkness. It was just as the most darkest inky blackness that you could ever possibly see. I didn't feel any fear or anything like that. I was just looking at this inky black darkness, and I've started to realize my soul's consciousness was telling me that I disconnected from the combined human consciousness, and that the only thing that I was remembering was the last thing that I was around, which was the house, my parents' house. And as I was taking all that in, I had this intrinsic understanding just to go and look up. And as I looked up, above me was just this crystalline, beautiful ball of light. It was absolutely unbelievable. And I was looking at it and I was thinking, I was just like, wow, look at that. And as I looked at it, I went to look back down at the house, and that's when that light just engulfed me, all of it. And the whole time I'm experiencing this, I've got these unbelievable feelings of love, peace, tranquility, just these euphoric feelings just passing through my body and or my soul body. And it was just incredible, absolutely incredible. And when this light wrapped around me, I, you'd start looking around, but it's just everywhere you look is just this crystalline, bright white light. It's all around you. And I'm trying to focus in on the light to try to see if there's something that I can see. And as I did that, I started to hear kind of like these little, sounded like little insects or just, it's difficult to explain, but the sound or the sound caught my attention. I looked down and it was blades of grass just going up around my feet. And I was like, oh my gosh. And as I looked up, that grass just went right out in front of me. And that's when everything started to show up. The hills started to show up, the trees, the bushes, a river over to the right in the distance. All this stuff started to show up. And way in the background, in the mountains in the background, was this beautiful golden city, just this magnificent golden city. I'll never forget it. And I was like, I was focused in on that city. I was like, I want to go see that city. I want to go there. And what was really interesting was that you just moved. You didn't walk. Your body energy just moved, started to move in that direction. And as I was starting to move ever so quietly, I was looking around, just taking it all in, just unbelievable. It's like over to my right, I was coming past this beautiful big tree with bushes around it, and a deer came around the side of the tree. The two deer came around. I could see the light shining out of them. And the incredible thing about it was that it was like they knew me and I knew them. It was like we were one. And it was such an intense experience how they were taking me in. It was absolutely unbelievable. And what then I realized it's like, well, the animals have soul. So I started because this everything about the other side, the colors are just so beyond crystalline clear and so much brighter. The sound is just unreal. Like the sound of the birds, that's what caught my attention with when I was looking at the deer in this tree. The birds, I looked up at the birds and seeing the birds on the branches, and they had light shining out of their bodies. And like the tinkling of the water running down the river was, it was just stunning. It was just such an incredible experience as far as the senses is concerned, because everything is just 1,000-fold what you experience here. It's just magnificent. So I took that stuff in, and as I turned my attention back to go towards towards these mountains where the city was at, I was looking over to my left, and there was just these two beautiful, I I would call them balls of light, but they're really orbs. But I've always called them balls of light. Just kind of like went, boop, boop, just popped up. Two of them, about so big. And I was just like, huh, check that out. That's pretty, wow. And I just looked back towards the city, and I started to move towards that city again. And as I started to move out my peripheral, I could see these balls following me. They were moving along with me. And I just thought to myself, that's kind of interesting. So I stopped and I looked, like, focused in on them. And when I focused in on them, it was the wildest thing up, because they went lengthwise and went, and it felt like they made a sound. It was just like when they opened up, and they were in like a double pointish ended surfboard, right? This almond shape. And I was like, holy heck, that was the first experience where I kind of started to feel like a little, that feeling in your gut that you get every once in a while. And what happened was I was focusing in on them, and they started to take on a human form. From the top, the head started to show shape, and then it went down into the shoulders, and then the arms, and then down in the body, all the way down. And as I was focusing in on them, and this was just blew my mind. They were just this beautiful golden light, this beautiful golden light. And as I was focusing in on them, they had no eyes, no nose, no mouth. They were just the shape of a human being, and they just went like this. And their eyes were just these jet black almond eyes. And that was the first feeling in my gut of like, oh shit, like what's going on here? Like if you've never seen that, it will surprise you. And then I just remembered that the hair started to form on them, and then the skin, and then the clothes. It was like watching melting wax, but they were taking on this human-esque form. And as they took on that form, like telepathically, they asked me to say, "What are you doing here, Lawrence?" I was, you know who I am? And they're like, yeah, we know who you are. What are you doing here? And I said, I don't know. I have no idea why I'm here. And they said, well, you need to go back. And my reply was, well, I don't want to go back. I know I'm home. I want to stay here. And they were like, well, again, they repeated, you need to go back. And I'd already started to move ever so slightly. And they followed along with me. And they they were like, "Where are you going?" And I said, I want to check out that city out the back." And they said, you need to go back, you know. And I said to them again, I said, they said, "You need to go back. There's things that you need to do." And I looked at them. I said to them, "Well, I'm I don't want to go back. I don't know how I got here, and I don't know how to go back." And I was like, "I'm staying." You know, it was a conversation, very simple, very brisk, telepathically trans whatever conversation. And I turned and off I went again. I wanted to go see that city. That's all there was to it. And as I started to move, they didn't follow me this time. They just stayed exactly where they were at. And I never forget it. They just said, "Fine then, have it your way." And I'll never forget it because I knew I was in trouble. I just stopped and I turned back because they're back over this way now. And I was like, "What?" They said, "Fine then, have it your way." And as they said that, this huge hand, this massive, massive hand just grabbed me from behind. And when that hand grabbed me, those feelings of love, peace, safety, tranquility just exploded 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold. And I was just like, oh, like your soul, because you're just your soul's essence, energy. My soul was just like, oh. And the thing that was even more mind blowing that humanity has, well, there's a handful of human beings that will know this, and that is the power that you feel, the absolute power of God is unreal. And when I mean unreal, it is absolutely unbelievable. And it just tipped me over. And as I was tipped over, everything just went. And I just remember being railed just back down into my body. It's like, there's my body. And next thing it says, "You're in it." And it was just brutal. It was absolutely brutal because I don't know how long I'd been out for. Um, I actually didn't mention this in the original video that I did, but I had multiple bolts of energy like forced through my body to get me back up and running, and the pain was absolutely excruciating because you could hear the blood just being forced through every, like, being pushed through every blood vessel, artery, capillary. Like the pain in my jaw and my teeth and down through the rest of your body was just, it was freaking unreal. But the interesting thing is now, and when I did the original video, I said that I still didn't know what I needed to do. And one of the most beautiful things that has happened in the last 2 years is I've come around and I know what I need to do now. There's an incredible amount of like peace and love and acceptance for what had happened. And I've actually had some amazing experiences, because in that previous video, I mentioned about how brutal life was, okay, about how harsh life had been. Because when you know God's love, you can't understand why other human beings have to be so horrible and so nasty. And because what was happening with me is whenever somebody was, abusive to me, whether it was a workplace, a relationship, any of the hardships, harshness in life that would go on, I experienced that 1,000-fold. Because when you know love, like up here, you feel the duality of it. So if you're feeling love, like here, you're going to feel pain and agony at a similar level to what you love at. Well, because of me and my experience, my understanding of love was in the stratosphere. So whenever anything happened to me in a painful, toxic, negative way, that's how I experienced it. And so for many, many years from that time, we're talking 30 plus years, it's just been brutal. It's been an absolute brutal experience. But everything is, since doing that video, everything has started to come around full circle. And I see the lessons. I see the beauty and the love and the understanding in the lessons and everything that I've had to experience and go through, because it's brought me literally like right to this point. And what's really incredible was July this year, I had one of the most profound experiences in Lake Tahoe, where I had this life coming full circle experience. And then for the next 3 months after that, every month I was taken to the edge of my sanity, because I had to experience all those hardships, all that pain, all that misery, heartache that I would experience at such a high level. And I was able to transmute that into love. I was able to transmute that into knowledge, wisdom, etc. And what it's done is brought an element of peace. It's like my mind, body, and soul now is all just working in unity, absolute perfect unity with itself. And I understand and see consciously all this stuff now, like literally like through God's eyes, like through God's understanding, through God's wisdom, God's knowledge. And it's been such, since I did the video 2 years, the original video 2 years ago, it's been one of the most beautiful experiences out, because the love and the support and the caring and the understanding from all those people has carried me through to this point. And it's one of the most humbling. I got hit. It was like 2 months ago. I'd been out in the woods, and I was coming out, and I just got hit with this unbelievable feeling of love and humility. And I'd realized that that was my soul finally going, this, like, hello, this is what it feels like to be at one with me. And my connection with my soul, and for want of a better term, like God consciousness, has just been beautiful, and I feel so privileged, and I mean this from the depths of my heart and soul. I feel so privileged to have been able to go through this journey and to understand and have the knowledge and the wisdom to actually see why I had to go through this and to understand it. And in that the original video, I said I said I still don't know what to do. I got very emotional. I was getting choked up, tears, and it's like it's this now, actually sharing what I've learned, sharing the knowledge, the wisdom of what we have to go through as human beings. I understand intrinsically now. It's like a whole another side of me has woken up to a connection with a level of consciousness that I'm humbled to say that I'm a part of, and that's it, Jeff. I mean, like, doing this podcast is such a blessing, and what you're doing by sharing these experiences with people is absolutely beautiful, and I mean that sincerely.
Lawrence, thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Yeah.
Who do you think
Thank you.
who do you think those two beings that you were negotiating with were?
One of them is my daughter now. Yeah, one of them is my daughter now.
You mean it was her pre-birth?
Yes.
Interesting. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I had an incredible experience with my daughter. Oh man, that was incredible. She was always such a little turd. She would never want to take her her afternoon naps. So this one particular afternoon, we laid down. We had I had at my business, I had a couch that would fold out into a futon, and I tried to get her to sleep on that. And what would happen was, I'd lay down beside her, and this particular afternoon, I just started to meditate on her. I started to learn to meditate, and I thought I was going through a spiritual awakening and all that sort of stuff. So I focused in on her, um, being, energy, etc. And a few minutes into it, she started to kind of like rustle around and move. She was lying on her stomach. Her head was facing opposite me. And she moved her arms, pushed herself up, turned her head to me, and opened her eyes. They were the exact same eyes as what were on my guides. And she smiled at me, and in a voice that I've never heard her speak to this day, she just whispered to me, "It's all right. Everything's going to be okay." And I got that same knot in my stomach as what I had when my guides first opened their eyes to me. And she's an angel. She is 100% an angel. She was sent. She saved my life, because there were times where I was so close to being over with this stuff and contemplating just ending my life, and I just could not bring that into my life. I could not bring that into my daughter's life in any way, shape, or form. Because when I say stuff was brutal, I'm genuinely not joking. I'm not joking. The other guide, I didn't like. He took on a full human form. The other one was a female, and I recognized her. That's why my daughter is her, and she is my daughter. The other one was just a beautiful, tall male, blonde hair, like tan, beautiful tan, light tan skin, red t-shirt, blue jeans, just really just a beautiful human being. Or I should say a beautiful being in human form. Because in meditate, I did some very, very deep soul counsel work with a shaman many years ago. And in real deep states of meditation, I've actually experienced that bright light around me, and being able to focus in on the shaman that I was doing my work with, and seeing all her hair and the skin and everything just wash away, and just being able to sit in front of her just as two pure souls. And I've had some very, very interesting experiences. Let's just say that much.
I've
Yeah.
had A few guests also see the city of gold on the other side.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It
And
is. It is very, very, very real. November 2016, I had another wild, wild experience where I'd gotten up one morning, um, beautiful day, went back to bed, just laid on the bed. And I was like, I'll just start meditating, and start doing my breathing exercises, start to focus in on my crown chakra and then down into my pineal and start getting the energy flowing up and down my body. And next thing I I feel like I'd woken up. And feel like I'm rolling over, looking out the window because I'd pulled the blinds and everything in the house. And I got out of bed, or what felt like I got out of bed, and I went to the window because there's this beautiful golden light shining through the window. And I looked out over the, the the farm fields where I was living at the time to the Pacific Ocean, and I just was like, "Oh my God, this day is absolutely freaking unbelievable! Wow, I want to go out onto the patio and take it in." As I turned around, I literally saw my body on my bed, just like hands on my chest, and so anyway, there's another whole story, but I opened the veil to the other side. Like I had a porthole open up, guide showed back up again. It's another whole story, but I'm not going to say what the mountain is where I live, but there was a massive on that particular, and it's just over there, like just over there, huge golden city, huge. And I could see all these souls coming and going from it. Like they were flying in, just coming in, coming out. And when the chatter between myself and my guides started happening, you could start to hear the chatter from all these other souls going, what's happening? Who's that? What's going on? And you would see them stop and turn around and look down to where we were at with where the veil had been opened. And dude, they just started just just rocketing down to where we're at. And I saw dozens of these beautiful golden, like people call them angels, energy beings, souls, with their beautiful big eyes, just all looking at me. And I was communicating with my guides. And so, yeah, the Golden City is 100% a very, very, it's more real on that side than this side. This side is, for the best way to describe this side, it's very, very dull. It's like the colors are dull, the sounds are dull, everything about this side is just dull. But when you see into the other side or you cross over to the other side, everything just gets so unbelievably, everything is just so crystalline clear. The colors are just magnificent. Every words really, I mean, sincerely, Jeff, words can't even describe it, to be honest with you.
if the other side is crystal clear and this is dull, then what do you think this is?
This is a very interesting realm. The This is a brutal place. For want of a better term, this is kind of hell. What happens to us when we, as a soul, drop down into this realm? We get disconnected from the consciousness of God, creation, and what that does is it leaves a hole in our soul, and that hole in our soul is where that's like the gateway to what religious people would call hell. Okay. And depending on what happens in our lives, the trauma, how we're raised, etc., how much love we get as an infant, then into our childhood, experiences, depending on how many negative experiences we get, how much abuse we get, etc., as a child, will depend on if that hole in our soul will heal or if it'll actually get bigger. And because of our world that we live in, a lot of those holes in people's souls don't heal. The majority of humanity's holes in their souls have gotten bigger. That's where all this materialism stuff comes from. And it is the gateway to hell. And I mean that sincerely. That is where hell resides. It's in the fractured part of the soul. And it's also the part of the soul and the ego where we experience the duality of this world. And that is one of the things that we experience here is this opposite of everything. And what our job is, truthfully, here is to reconcile that duality. You know, we have to start to learn to see the positive in what we would call the negative, because the actual negative is where we learn. The negative is how we grow. The negative is what forges us into who we are. And it's like I said about how my life has come full circle. You know, 10 years ago, I was on so many times I was on the verge of putting a pistol to the side of my head and just my brains out, because I was like, God, why me? Why the F did you do this to me? Now I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this experience. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the pain. Thank you for the, I see, and this is the hardest thing for us to understand right now, is the love that is in that hardship. It's about learning a whole nother level of God's love. And that's where there's so many people that are about, you know, peace, love, light, you know, oh, you know, we've got to hold a place of peace and love and light for all this stuff. But the truth of the matter is we also have to hold that same level of love and appreciation and thanks for the brutality, for the horrific stuff, because each and every human being on this planet has agreed to have an experience here. So even those poor souls that are experiencing what they're experiencing, let's say in a certain country in the Middle East right now, they all agreed to come here and live that life. And what we have to start to do, and a lot of people are going to have an incredibly hard time with this, but we have to learn to see what the lessons are in that as a collective. But we can't get there until each individual human being can reconcile those lessons inside of themselves. So what a lot of people are doing in the spiritual community is they're using that as a form of escapism. They don't want to deal with the pain. They don't want to deal with the hate. They don't want to deal with the hardships, the harshness. And we have to get to a point consciously, individually, where we bring our mind, our body, and our soul all together and working in unity with ourselves. It has to start at the conscious level of each individual human being. And that's what true unity, because you hear the term unity consciousness being thrown around out there a lot today. Well, unity consciousness has to start with us as an individual. And to get there, you have to face the darkness, that hole in our soul, because that is where the lessons are. That is where the learning is. That is where the saying, though I walk through the valley of death, you have to go into this hole and you have to die again to be born anew. And it's a brutal process. However, the other side of it is absolutely magic. Yeah, it's just amazing because you learn about what's important to you. You learn about what your soul wants, because truthfully, the number one thing that humanity really, to even start to get to this point, is you literally have to let go and literally just become the vessel, like the ship, and let the soul take the wheel and start driving you in the direction that it needs to go in. And a lot of people won't like the direction that their soul will want to go in, you know? So, but it's the only way we can really start to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the only real way that we can start to, the only way that we can start to transcend the stuff that's going on in this world right now is we have to start working with that darkness, where that hole in the soul is at. What Carl Jung called the shadow, to be honest with you.
What do you think the city of gold is?
That's why I was wanting to go there. Because it definitely, it caught my attention big time. I mean, it really did. And this is mind blowing to me. I still can't get over this. The same thing when I opened the veil, and I have no idea how I did it. Please, even quantum physicists, don't ask me. I have no idea how it happened. It just, there it was. I wanted to cross over. I wanted to go to that golden city on that hill over there, because the thing is, when the veil opens, or when you die and cross over, everything is exactly the same as here. The hills are in the same place, the mountains, the rivers, everything's in the exact same place. It's just there's no man-made stuff there. There's none of our cheap, crappy stuff. So what happens is, like I said, there's nature, everything's still there. It's just beautiful, bright, crystalline colors, sounds amazing, everything like that. So, when the veil opened and I'm looking at this mountain, and at the top of it is, again, this magnificent golden city. As I was talking with my guides, and more of these souls were coming down and taking part in the conversation, I got closer and closer and closer and closer to this. It's no different to you and I looking at each other right now. Okay, via this. This is how the veil actually. This is the whole as above, so below, manifesting right before us with our eyes, right here, right now. Because this here is like the veil. I'm looking into another world right now. Like looking at you, but I can't go there. But yet there's nothing on the other side of it. It's just my regular world, right? This is what, if you could imagine just a crystalline, shimmering light around your computer screen, this is what the veil is like. You can go it, but here's the thing. I got so close, I went to step over, and I had most probably 3 dozen of these beautiful beings just all simultaneously go, stop. And I was like, what? Why? I want to go there. I want to see that, again, that golden city. And they said, you cannot cross over. And I said, well, I could cross over when I died. So why can't I cross over now? And they said, your body is still alive. They all said it. And I was like, what? They said, your body is still alive. You cannot cross over while your body is alive, only when you die. And I was like, why is that? And they said, there is no time on our side. So when your body is alive and connected to the timeline that you're on your side, there is no guarantee that your body, your soul will return to the body on the same timeline. It could be 1,000 years ahead. It could be 1,000 years behind. It could be a minute ahead, a minute behind. But it will completely and utterly destroy like the time space stuff. And I was like, are you kidding me? They, no, we're telling you the truth. And I immediately said, so I'm like, I've got a question. And they like, okay. I said, so some of these spiritual teachers that say they leave their bodies and then they cross over, and they didn't even let me finish my conversation. They all said, they're lying. I was like, are you kidding me? They're like, no, they're lying. So I said, let me just qualify this. You're telling me that it is absolutely impossible for a soul while the human body is alive to cross over. And they said, yes. They said, you can astral travel where your consciousness can tap into, that's your consciousness just looking. No one can cross over. No one. And I will hang my hat on dozens of like soul spirit guides telling me that than anyone else trying to tell me that they have crossed over. Because there's people going on about reading the Akashic libraries and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just like, you might be able to go there based on your past experiences as a soul, because as a soul, you can, like we talked about before we started the video, we can go to that point in our soul's energy body, depending on the lives that we've had here. But we cannot cross over and go there as a soul, as a spirit, while our body is still alive on this side. We have to die.
I think we need to redefine some terms here about crossing over the other
Yes, we do.
side and what
We do.
that all means, because I think some people just think when you leave your body, you've crossed over, but that,
Yeah, and you haven't. A lot of people that have NDEs, because I've listened to a few of them over the years, and I don't, two things I hate doing is I hate listening to, I shouldn't say hate, I very rarely listen to anybody else's experiences in regards to any of this stuff, because I don't want their words, their thoughts, their experiences permeating into my soul body's experience. And I don't read. I have only like my library of books, which is right behind the computer here, is that wide. And there's like I can give you an idea right now. I got Deepak Chopra's Book of Secrets, which I learned absolutely nothing from. Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. My great uncle is Burt Munro, the guy that they made the movie The World's Fastest Indian about. So I've got one of his books and handful of other stuff. So, and the reason why I don't like reading is, again, you're putting other people's thoughts, other people's ideas, other people's experiences into your experience. And the truth of the matter is you have everything that you could ever possibly need to know already inside of yourself. Every answer you need, every question you need an answer for, it's already in you. Everything that you need to know is already there. And that's what's beautiful about this work, in all sincerity, even though I said I don't listen to this stuff because I don't want to have other people's experiences affect my experience. What it is doing for people that haven't experienced what I've experienced and other people have experienced is it's opening their heart, their soul, their consciousness up to the potential of being able to experience something like this. So what's good about that is people will try to seek something out along that lines. And it's the start of that journey that will finally bring you full circle back around to yourself. So that's what people like yourself are doing, is you're bringing consciousness into, or yeah, you're bringing people's consciousness into their world so they can start questioning their consciousness. So it's interesting. It's like for the newbie who's boots on the ground starting something, it's like this is like boot camp for them, in all sincerity.
Let's say the realm that we're all living here is realm A.
Yeah.
Realm B is the realm that you're in when you leave your body, and whether you're floating around with us or going out into space or wherever. And then realm C is across the veil where you're not allowed to enter, where the city of gold is, right?
Yeah.
What about in realm B, when you're outside of the body, but you're not actually across the veil? In realm B, is it also a place where time doesn't exist?
Realm B, I would say, would be the area where we have removed ourselves from the combined human consciousness. And there are a lot of souls stuck there. There's a lot of souls stuck there. That's where your ghosts come from. That's where your paranormal activity comes from. So there is no time there. Those poor souls are stuck. And, there's another whole subject matter right there, primarily because I've had just last night I had an experience with dark souls coming at me. Incredible message in it also. But yeah, there's no time there.
Would it be accurate to say that realm C, beyond the veil where the city of gold is true reality?
Yes.
And our realm A is like some sort of simulated reality. It sounds like what you're saying is just created right on top of the true reality, because the true reality is just.
This is the dream.
So this is let's say it's the Matrix, right? This is the Matrix. Would you say realm B is a pocket or a space between the two, outside of the reality?
It's the hard drive that the Matrix runs on.
You're outside of the Matrix, but you're not in reality either. You're in some kind of in between.
Best way to describe it, and it's like it's no different to. I did a video about how the ego is formed. And it's literally like is like a computer. This device, this computer that I'm talking through right now, and the computer that you're talking through to me right now, this is consciousness of our realm manifesting in reality. Because these are portals where we can talk to other people. Boom, 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 effortlessly. Even these little, magical devices here, our cell phones, they're another form of a portal into another realm, into another reality. So without input, without programming, none of this stuff works. It will only react to input. And we're very similar to that ourselves, based on what our programming is. And so pretty much we are a energy body, the soul. And it's really pretty interesting, because how we end up becoming programmed from when we're born to our childhood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the experiences we all have in our lives, we become literally a product of our environment. We become programmed. So it's like our soul is this supercomputer, and it gets to experience, because everything before us is coming from inside of us. It's coming from, it's like behind our eyes is our, like the movie screen. That's where it plays out. But you're actually going into your consciousness, which is your soul body, and you're just actually taking up memory points from inside of that computer that are playing out in front of your life in regards to what your experience is and whatever your journey is. And it's, you just get dropped down into this realm, this, like, it'd be like you taking, here's a micro SD card, right? It's like, it's just about like saying, okay, that's your soul. You're going to plug it into your computer. We're going to program your life, and away you go, and you're running around in that matrix. And then when your life ends, it gets plucked out of that realm, and you get taken away, and you get plugged into another area where you get to have your life reviews, as people call it, and you get to chill out for a little bit, and then you can say, you know what, I want to give it another go, or, you know, I want to help change this aspect of life. There's so many, depending on the amount of lives you've had and the amount of experiences, will depend on you how high up the consciousness roster. There's no hierarchy. That's the other thing that I have a real problem with. There's only one boss, and that is whatever God's energy is, because it's everything. That's it. So yeah, there's no hierarchy, because that's the other thing people talk about, is just like this hierarchy, and it's this, and there is none. There is no hierarchy in any way. Even though, like, when my soul guides told me, fine, have it your way, then I've had a lot of people in the comment section say, you know, that was really malevolent of them. That wasn't caring. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. And I can see that from a human perspective. However, the reality of the situation is that it was the most loving thing that they could have ever possibly done for me. And because I had a path that I had to go down. There was stuff that I had to do. And this is the thing that not one person on the original video has caught on to it. And that is that the majority of people are here to learn. There's a handful of people that are here that have like a mission. They have to do something here. And that's because I was just watching my video the other day, because I just wanted to just re-watch it. Actually, I didn't watch it, I listened to it. And I caught myself. I was like, holy I didn't say, they didn't tell me my guides didn't tell me you have stuff to learn. You have a life to learn, a life to live. They said you've got stuff you need to do. And I was like, holy, and that was the one thing that I've really caught my attention, was that I've really been focusing in on that, actually.
What do you think extraterrestrials are? Aliens and UFOs.
Some of them are actually pretty beautiful beings. Some of them are just us. There is genuinely a specific group of extraterrestrials that created us. 100%. 100%. And I can unequivocally tell you, with my hand on my heart, God is my witness, that they're here.
Are you saying that they created this humanoid program? Because truthfully, we're not from here. From what you're saying, we're from the City of Gold.
Yeah. All the stuff that is out there in regards to the Sumerian text, as far as us being a created being, like a big science experience on behalf of a specific race of people, is so beyond correct. It is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And the reality of the situation is they have a hugely massive karmic debt that they owe humanity. And they are genuinely right now, literally watching what is going on. And because they played God. What they did in creating us was actually went right against the natural order of the universe, God's order of the universe. They took free will to a whole another level to save their own. And that's one of the hard aspects of being a human is there's this big aspect of who we are that there's this big unknowing, you know. And but yeah, there's incredibly malevolent ones. Everybody thinks the Greys are here to save us and everything like that, and you don't want the Greys showing up around your world. I was literally, like I said, I've had all sorts of ridiculously weird experiences. I was just sitting out on the patio of the house where I had that experience where I opened the veil. I was just sitting out on the patio one evening, puffing away on a little cigar, and I, it was, it was like everything just froze around me. This gray just showed up right in front of me. And without even flinching, I was sat there, I looked at it, that's looking at me, and I just went, what the F are you doing here? And it just went, it showed up, full form, standing right in front of me. I looked out, I was like, what the F are you doing here? And it looked at me and realized it's like, we don't want to be here. And it just went, dude, grays give you chills. When I say the air around you felt like everything froze, it froze. It was like not cool. And I've been telling people for years, it's like you don't want those. If they show up, you're not going to be a happy camper. That's all there is to it. But yet there's some that are extremely benevolent. This is the thing that I love, and this is the part that human beings miss. Right? There's a race of beings out there called the draconians. Okay. How many times have you heard the term used when explaining somebody who's just a malevolent SOB? Oh, that individual's just a draconian a-hole. These words and these terms don't happen just to show up out of thin air. You know, this stuff is very, very real. Very, very real. Like unbelievably real. But I can 100% say that the race of beings that created us, they are 100% watching very, very, very closely, very, very closely, very closely.
Lawrence, we've had a fascinating conversation today. And after this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions and want to know more. Are you open to that?
Yeah.
What's the best way to contact you?
What I'll do is then, I'm not sure when this video will go up, but what I've got to do is set up at least a website, not a website, an email address. And I'm going to put my name, Lawrence Bryant, attached to my channel because my channel is just T.E.K, which used to stand for The Enlightened Kiwi. And I switched the channel name to Tech because I realized that I wasn't quite as far down the enlightenment path as what I thought I was. And I was like, oh, I need to back off from this. So people can try to do a search for T.E.K, and I'll have attached to it my name, also Lawrence Bryant.
All right. Well, I'll put a link to your YouTube channel in the video description.
Yeah, I hope this gets a colossal amount of views for you too.
Thank
For
you.
yourself. And I mean that sincerely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, can you
Mhm.
leave us with a last positive message?
That's actually a really, really easy one. And that is just people have to learn to let go. They have to learn to let go. Sincerely, surrender. It's the hardest thing for any of us to do. And with that, with true surrender, you are shutting down all your ego's desires in this world that you've been programmed with believing that you need. And you're going to start the journey of slowly allowing your consciousness, which is your soul's energy, to actually come more and more and more to the surface. And as that happens, you're going to be allowing your soul to take the helm, the wheel of your life. And you're going to be, then you'll start to be taken down the path in your life that you, as your soul's agreed upon path for being here. And that is what they call in the Bible performing God's will, is when you're allowing your soul to live its true journey here on this planet. And for a lot of people, it's going to be an uncomfortable thing to do. However, it's the single most positive thing that you could ever possibly do in your life, is to surrender your life to the divine flow and consciousness of this world, because that's ultimately who each and every one of us are, is attached to. It's a very, very fine thread for the majority of humanity, but you are still connected, because us as a soul, we still have to be connected with the divine God for us to have the energy to be able to live here. So, yeah, surrender is the biggest thing anybody could do. Yeah, surrender.
Lawrence, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Oh, dude, it's been my pleasure. And I mean that. I'm sincerely, I'm like, I'm genuinely so humbled. I really, truly am. I words can't even begin to describe it. I love sharing these messages. I really do. This is 100% my soul's journey in this life, is doing this. So
Well,
it's been a pleasure to be able to do this for you, Jeff, sincerely.
thank you, Lawrence. Thanks for watching the Jeff Mara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.